What's going on, everyone? Today we are talking 4 extremely undervalued wide receivers. Wide receivers you can go out and get in your drafts right now. We're talking Keenan Allen. We're talking Juju Smith-Schuster. We're talking Metchie. And we're talking one more that I save for the very end. So if you are interested, be sure to stay till the end of the video. Either way, before we get into it, if you guys could, go down, drop this video a like. I'm answering every comment. So you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. And subscribe to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free and it would mean the absolute world to me, guys. Thank you all so much for the support. Really do appreciate it. Either way, let's hop right into it with our first player, and that is Keenan Allen.
It's in the secondary, 3rd and 5. He gets away from one defender, throws downfield, Keenan Allen! What a catch over Hill!
And Keenan Allen is one of those players that I think has unfairly been labeled as injury prone throughout his career, despite the fact that from 2017 to 2021, he only missed 2 total games. Now, yes, this last year he was injured as well, but when he came back, he was absolutely electric. As from weeks 11 to 18, so when he was able to return till the end of the season, he finished as the wide receiver 4 in all of fantasy football, only behind A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Adams, averaging 15 half-point PPR points a game, ahead of guys like Devonta Smith and CeeDee Lamb, which is absolutely incredible. He's in one of the best offenses in the entire NFL with Justin Herbert. You got Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston now to take defenders off of Keenan Allen. They also have a great offensive line, in my opinion, getting Rashawn Slater back. You have Austin Eckler out of the backfield. I mean, there are so many weapons for Justin Herbert to choose from, and yet consistently he goes to Keenan Allen. I mean, since Justin Herbert came into the league, Keenan Allen has averaged a little under 10 targets a game and 7 receptions a game, to go along with 73 receiving yards. I mean, that is great production year in and year out. And this is somebody who is a PPR machine, again, averaging 10 targets a game. One last thing to prove how great of a wide receiver Keenan Allen still is, he finished with 2.7 yards per route run, which ranked 11th out of all wide receivers, ahead of guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and right behind Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Hopkins. He still has juice in the tank. He commanded 22.5% of this team's target share, which might not sound like a lot, but when Justin Herbert is consistently slinging for over 5,000 yards, that is absolutely fine at the position. I think Keenan Allen is massively undervalued, especially right now when he's going behind Christian Watson and right ahead of guys like Jerry Jeudy and Mike Williams. While I think Mike Williams is a great player in his own right and Jerry Jeudy is a great player in his own right, I think that Keenan Allen is simply a much more proven player, somebody you can go out on any given season and have over 100 receptions and over 1,100 yards. And if you are getting that at a position and 6 to 10 touchdowns, you are absolutely fine with that. I think Keenan Allen is massively undervalued. I have him ranked in the same tier with guys like Amari Cooper, guys like DeAndre Hopkins, and yet he's not being drafted as such. I think Keenan Allen, a great player. Either way, let's move on to my next player, and that is Juju Smith-Schuster.
Smith-Schuster, take it off down the sideline. He leaps over one defender before he's down at the 15.
And yeah, I know the story with Juju Smith-Schuster has been one of the most confusing in all of fantasy football and just regular football. I mean, comes out, has a 1,400-yard season next to Antonio Brown, then comes out the next 4 seasons and has middling performances. So yeah, it's a very confusing situation. But at the same time, this is a wide receiver who's entering the prime of his career at just 26 years old, somebody who's had a top 20 fantasy finish 3 separate times at the wide receiver position, and last year finishes the wide receiver 27 despite only having 3 touchdowns. Not only that, this Patriots depth chart is one of the most desolate we've seen in all of football. I mean, we're talking about Devontae Parker as the wide receiver 2, and then Tyquan Thornton as the wide receiver 3. I mean, they also have Kendrick Bourne, Kayshon Boutte, but none of these guys are going to be stealing serious volume from Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy they brought in on a 3-year deal worth over $25 million. While that is not an absolutely massive contract, it is good enough to lock him up as the wide receiver 1 in this offense with nobody else. And yeah, there are question marks. We don't know if Mac Jones is going to be good. I personally think he's pretty bad, to be honest with you. But at the same time, when you are going at an ADP of 100 behind Jameson Williams, a guy who's going to be suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season, and just ahead of Zach Charbonnet, I personally would rather have Juju Smith-Schuster by a pretty fair margin over these 2 guys. Now again, is he going to be that player we saw in 2018? Probably not. But I think he's one of the safest bets to finish with at least 900 yards that season. And if you're getting that level of stability in the 100s, I am absolutely fine taking Juju. That's why I think Juju's a pretty big steal, and I've been drafting him in a fair amount of places. Either way, let's move on to John Metchie.
Leary in motion. The throw goes the other way. Metchie's in. Alabama wins.
4 overtimes.
And John Metchie, I know, is another questionable player, but his price point is simply too low for me to ignore. Right now, over on Underdog Fantasy, this is somebody coming off with an ADP of 178, which is where you're drafting guys like Dawson Knox, Taysom Hill, Chase Brown, Hunter Renfrow. Well, I think these guys are interesting plays. John Metchie has the most talent out of potentially all of these guys, besides maybe Hunter Renfrow, but that situation is very, very confusing as well. I mean, John Metchie was drafted in the second round of last year's NFL draft, despite the fact that he tore his ACL. Then it comes out he has leukemia. He has been battling through to recover, and all signs point to the fact that he is going to be okay this upcoming season. Although, really, there are still question marks, all signs have been pointing in the positive direction, so I think the odds that John Metchie plays are at least pretty decent. Not only that, this wide receiving core is absolutely bottom of the barrel. I mean, we're talking about Nathaniel Dell, a guy I really like, a hyper-productive wide receiver in college, but one of the tiniest wide receivers in all of college. Other than that, it's Nico Collins, who I think is pretty good as well, but at the same time, John Metchie should be the one in this offense almost from day one. CJ Stroud, a rookie quarterback, not going to be all that great in the NFL, probably year one. But at the same time, if you are building a connection, a rapport with John Metchie year one, I think there will be at least some spike weeks for John Metchie. And yeah, it will be painful sometimes for John Metchie. I'm not saying to go draft him in a redraft league with all your buddies, but in these Underdog best ball drafts, I think John Metchie has the potential to absolutely explode, and we've seen how great he was already in college. I mean, in college, he had significantly more receptions than Jameson Williams, a guy who went in the top 15 in the same draft class. He had over 1,100 yards and was the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense, behind Jameson Williams, somebody people have been hyping up a ton, despite the fact that he is going to miss 6 games. And I know, Jameson Williams is a better talent than John Metchie, that is for sure. But at the same time in college, John Metchie was still an animal and was still a go-to guy in clutch situations, as you'll see here. And the fact that his ADP is so low, despite the fact that he was a second-round pick last season, and a second-round pick who never really got a chance to play in the NFL, I think John Metchie is a huge steal right now. I think he's a bargain bin player, and I would absolutely go out and draft him where he's going right now, over guys like Curtis Samuel, over guys like Dawson Knox, Taysom Hill. I think he's an absolute steal where he's going right now. Let me know about that one down below, though, because I know a lot of people are probably out on John Metchie. I mean, we never even saw him play. We don't know if he's going to play this season. But at the same time, there's a pretty huge case in my mind that John Metchie can vastly outperform his ADP. And at this price point, I am swinging for the fences with John Metchie. Either way, let's move on to my last player, and that is Jaylen Waddle.
Tagovailoa under pressure, found a hole for Jaylen Waddle, got a block and got free. Waddle with the speed, takes it inside the 30, keeps on going, all the way home, touchdown Miami. 84-yard lightning strike. Dolphins back in front.
And just like everyone else, I think Jaylen Waddle had a phenomenal sophomore season. But I want to tell you just how great it was. I mean, for one, this is somebody who led the entire league in yards per catch at 18.1. One of only 3 players to have over 17 yards per catch. He was also phenomenal on a yards per route run basis, having a 2.74 yards per route run, which ranked him 7th in the entire NFL, behind only guys like Devontae Adams, Christian Watson, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill. He also is somebody who doesn't have to be the wide receiver 1 in his offense. I mean, you have Tyreek Hill to be able to stretch the field like almost no other wide receiver in the NFL can do with his speed. Jaylen Waddle is a yards after the catch machine. Furthermore, he's also attached to one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the entire NFL in Tua Tagovailoa. This is somebody who led the entire league in adjusted yards per pass attempt. I mean, this might be the most explosive offense in the entire NFL next season, especially with the addition of A-Chain, the potential addition of Dalvin Cook. I mean, sky is the limit for this offense. And we saw just how great Jaylen Waddle was with Tua. I mean, this is a wide receiver who had over 1,100 yards in 13 games with Tua and 8 touchdowns. And, well, yes, it was not as great without Tua. And I think the main question mark is Tua's health, and I think that is a valid concern, because in 4 games without Tua, he was only able to have 248 yards and did not have a single touchdown, which, yes, it is a little bit concerning. And I'm not here to predict whether Tua is going to play a full season or not. If anybody's going to be injury prone, it may be Tua with his concussions. I mean, we really just don't know. He was debating retiring at the end of last season due to all the concussions he was getting. But at the same time, if Tua is able to play a full 17 games, in these underdog leagues, you are swinging for the fences. You want to go for the best stacks you possibly can. And when Jaylen Waddle is going behind a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who is phenomenally talented as well, do not get me wrong, but he doesn't have the quarterback that Jaylen Waddle has and doesn't have the ceiling that Jaylen Waddle has, I would prefer Jaylen Waddle straight up in a vacuum. Yet that's not how it's going right now. Jaylen Waddle is going 2.5 picks behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I've seen Jaylen Waddle fall almost to the 20s in these type of drafts, and yet I think Jaylen Waddle is a significant upgrade over players like Devonta Smith, T. Higgins. I think he's a phenomenal player, somebody who again had over 1,350 yards last season on only 117 targets. We should see this target volume go up. This is somebody who only had 20% of the team's target share, which was tied with Robert Woods and below guys like Zay Jones and Jacoby Myers. So we should see an uptick in targets for Jaylen Waddle, even if we see a downtick in efficiency. If he's able to have Tua back for the full season, Jaylen Waddle is going to be absolutely phenomenal at the wide receiver position and somebody I'm drafting everywhere when he falls to me below guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me that every single day. Either way, guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, go down and smash that like button. I'm answering every comment. So you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know down below. And subscribe to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free, and you can always change your mind later. With that, though, guys, as always, have a good day, a good night, and a good life. Peace out, boys.